Hello and welcome to the last of our modules in TACT, where we wanted to contemplate some of the, well, we're calling them professional thoughts, that is to say, uh, talk about career prospects and where teaching sits within the possible trajectory that you might have as an academic. So I think it would be disingenuous not to confess immediately that our career prospects depend very substantially on research, and so where teaching fits within that has to be acknowledged as something that fits in. So we're juggling two things at once. I mean, that's really um, teaching and research in a nutshell, where we're conscious that no matter what the nexus is, what overlap there is between teaching and research, research is not the same as teaching. And in the same way that teaching is not the same as just talking. And there follows a whole lot of bureaucratic stuff that we have to countenance. We're always, handling marks and handling students themselves, keeping records. There's quite a lot of yakka. So it's not just being in front of a class teaching, where of course we get that wonderful warm buzz. And that very thing, that excitement of being in front of a class, is perhaps not what carries forward our long-term prospects. So this idea that the one is at the expense of the other is really quite demoralising, and we're very, very keen to handle that if at all we can. So what we would like to focus on very much is that whatever differences there are, we have in common that great enthusiasm for our subject matter. And although it's often slightly different subject matter, there's enough in common that carries us through. And I think of this very much, well, I'm obviously very positive about it. To me, and our conversation sims in this section are quite, I think, enchanting, where I see the whole thing of teaching as, in a sense, being witness to thought, your own, but of course the students, and having sensed that I've learnt so much through teaching, I can say this within very, very good faith that, this privilege of being able to share a vision is quite unique to teaching, because when we're speaking to other researchers, of course, in a sense, they already do share that vision that we have. So the idea that we go on learning, but we help others in their learning, to me, is a great totality that I particularly love. And so it's not as if we're just doing theatre and getting a thrill, getting our kicks out of being out the front. And in fact, there's almost a degree of anxiety in the reverse, that we are witness to other people performing. And of course, we're known as very critical souls, where the people who pick fault in other people's research. So of course, when another person is on the platform teaching, we are, in a sense, the auditor, the somewhat unwelcome listener, a scrutineer of that performance. So whenever there's a hiccup, doesn't pass us unnoticed, doesn't escape our watchful gaze. And so that's a little bit tricky, transacting that, how much do you give as feedback to your superiors? That's all very interesting. These are quite practical problems that we often agonise about in our conscience as teachers. So there is a bracket on that. We're also interested in some very practical things about how we feel as teachers when, for instance, people don't turn up, because that can also shake your confidence. So my feeling is that it's unlikely to be down to you as a teacher, but we do contemplate that in some of our conversation sims, so it's a terrific thing to just get a handle on in the last little bit that we've got available to us. And I guess the final thing is, I know if I could get advice from anyone, what it would boil down to is, what would make me a better teacher? And so we're in it for tips, and we'll do our best. But I think in the conversation sims that you'll encounter very shortly, you will find that there are pieces of advice about not needing to be particularly theatrical. I think they're very, very helpful. That we do like to think of ourselves as content driven, and I think that characterises teaching at a good university. So there's lots in the program that's still being developed, things to do perhaps with academic integrity and so on that we are charged with as well. But there's a lot more to teaching than we can ever wrap up into one thinking program. I hope that this has been fun and insightful and rewarding and, above all, some kind of good preparation for the wonderful time that you're about to have. Ciao.